You love delicious homemade desserts, but recipes can be complicated and take so long to make. Hi, Kathy Mitchell here with my new Dump Cake Cookbook. Forget measuring. Now you can easily make homemade desserts in minutes. It's as simple as dump and bake for delicious desserts every time, guaranteed. Watch this. Start with fruit, dump on your favorite cake mix, and finish with a can of soda. Or you can use diet for a guilt-free dessert. Then just bake it in the oven for a delicious raz and peach dump cake. Oh, so scrumptious. Look, your kids will devour this s'mores chocolate cake in a skillet. And easy? Here's the cake mix. Just dump on the good stuff. Chocolate chips, marshmallows, even chocolate cookies. Bake and voila, the best dessert ever. Now here's one of my favorites. Just dump syrup, sugar, cinnamon, and nuts in a pan, and then just layer in some biscuits for fresh, warm, sticky buns, just like Grandma used to make.
It really
didn't.
bake. I never knew homemade desserts could be this easy.
You don't need to spend hours to make homemade cakes. Get my Dump Cake Cookbook today.
Okay, so that's over.
Oh, is that all of it? Oh man,
That's not all of it. I remember watching that on television, and I was just like, dump cakes. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Vaughn Akron Show. This is number 19. And I just felt like, everybody cooking at home, everybody getting into all this culinary shenanigans, right? I figured I'd share the dump cake commercial for those of you that have never seen it. I thought it was a great marketing name, dump cake. And it's basically Diabetes the Musical. Anyway, I'm joined here on show number 19 with my friends Sarah and Diggs. Welcome to the show, guys.
it's about time we drug you out of your hole.
I know. I wasn't feeling too good earlier this week. And before we go any further, too, I think the theme of this show tonight, and we'll digress, but it's really about how do you get that toothpaste back in the tube, or get those demons back into Pandora's box, get the cats back in the bag. I don't know.
I don't think you should try to put cats in a bag.
They don't like that. That's why they got out.
Once you let them out of the bag, you're in trouble.
Purse. Yeah.
So interesting story. Sarah just told us that her cat peed in her purse. Now this is, normally we are inundated with just COVID-19 news right now. So I find that anything else, is just interesting. So a cat peeing in a purse. That's how did this happen? When did this happen? How much urine?
I was sitting here on the computer, working on some stuff, and I looked up and I thought she was like laying down or sitting, but she was actually squatting. And once I realized that she was actually squatting, I immediately went and grabbed her, and I thought it was just like a little bit of pee on my purse, but she'd actually peed all over the table as well, and some store. It was just like some store ads and a bag and whatever. But yeah, she's downstairs.
Maybe that's the cat's way of telling you to get back to work. I'm tired of having all these people around.
Yeah, you've seen those memes, right? Like the dogs are like, please keep everything closed down forever.
Mm-hmm.
And the cats are like, please reopen everything immediately.
Yeah, why are these people in my house?
I have food. I have my letterbox is full. You can leave now.
Right. So, shit. I mean, first of all, everybody's favorite topic. What about this weather, guys? Come on.
It's snowing. It stopped snowing.
It's been snowing intermittently. It's May 8th. I mean, I guess it does snow in May, as Mike, he goes by Mike Walls, excuse me, now said.
Asian Mike?
Yeah, Asian Mike. And that's not pejorative.
Just
that's
call
what
him by his Christian name, all right?
Yeah, that's his Christian name. But yeah, I guess it does snow in May, but I usually pay attention this time of year because typically I'd be getting ready with my family to go on vacation. And unfortunately, we ended up canceling that because actually we would have found out today if the beaches would have been open and short-term rentals would have been open. And earlier this week, we just made a judgment call and we said, that's not enough time. We got to just cancel this thing. So that sucks. But, on the bright side, I'm getting a refund, which is cool.
That's good.
Some extra money. There you go.
It's more than some people got when they had to do cancellations during all of this pandemic stuff. So that's a plus.
I'm still waiting for my refund for the Dead Can Dance tickets in Toronto as well, which would have happened a couple weeks ago, which was a show I really wanted to go to, but just wasn't in the cards. And then all this stuff happened, and it is what it is. But anyway, as far as getting the toothpaste back in the tube, and by that, what I'm referring to is how do we undo, at least in some way, shape, or form, everything that's been done over the last couple months. And I think some of the things we're going to talk about are people actually getting back to work. What will this mean as far as, spikes in infections are concerned and more deaths? Really fun stuff like that. Uplifting, hallelujah, it's Sunday kind of stuff, but it's Friday night.
I've got the numbers for you.
Excellent. I knew you would, because Sarah actually sent me a really interesting link earlier this week, and it was to a study out of Wharton.
It's Penn State.
Penn State Wharton School of Business, which I believe is the alma mater of our very own president. I believe he went to school at Wharton, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
Anyway, it was a really interesting and cool, like, interactive model, and then the president of the university and two other folks, faculty, kind of explained how it worked. And, I kind of hope it's wrong, but, and they're going to be updating it continuously, but it was.
Yeah, they said every Monday they're going to update it based on new data and possibly introducing new variables or finding new sources of, that they can use that are more reliable.
And before we dig into that too, I mean, I've missed Wine with DeWine all week this week because I've actually been working from home, but I've been working. And so did I hear, or I saw rumors that restaurants will be opening up at the end of this month?
So outside dining will be allowed May 15th, and then May 21st, indoor dining will be allowed. They were originally talking about doing like 50% of fire code capacity thing.
Mm-hmm.
But they decided instead to do you can't have a party of more than 10. Tables either have to be 6 feet apart or separated by a physical barrier, which I've seen some restaurants doing, like shower curtains.
I saw that story.
There was like this weird thing I saw, I think it was in Denmark, and it was like they actually built little like I don't know, greenhouses.
Yeah, I saw that one too.
There's a lot of weird stuff. I think probably as far as like cost is concerned, I think for most places it's probably just gonna come down to the 6 foot.
Yeah, and why not? I mean, look, my wife's business is going gangbusters right now, selling basically sneeze guards or clear dividers for cubicles and things like that. But honestly, I mean, that's almost 100% psychological. Like, I saw the shower curtains too. I mean, say what you will about whatever is going on right now, but the way that this thing spreads, putting up a clear physical barrier that doesn't actually put you in a in a negative air pressure isolation room is not going to do shit as far as stopping it. Psychologically, maybe, but
I've seen some talk. So when they did allow smoking in bars and restaurants, they had the filtration systems in place so they could
those are long
filter out
gone.
the smoke. Well, I mean, but there's been some talk that maybe those might be useful in filtering the air.
Yeah, like a HEPA filter or an ionizer or something would be good, but those are long gone. Thanks a lot for allowing smoking indoors, jerks. Now you're totally screwed because those would have already been in place, right? But I don't know, Jake, seriously, a piece of plastic, I mean, it's more psychological. It's more just, in my opinion, more just meeting some demand for something to be done than actually anything effective.
I completely agree with you, and I was actually thinking the exact same thing Sarah was saying when she brought up when talking about smoking, and it was like, I don't know, it just reminds me of back in the day when you'd go to you'd walk past a partition from the difference between the smoking and the non-smoking was just a partition, and it's like it can still float, It's like, are these going to be like, are you walking into a vacuum sealed room to eat your food? No, you're not. So it's going to be,
Yeah,
I
you
agree
have your
with you.
mask on, you take it down,
Yeah.
you take a bite,
Yeah,
you
take
put
a
it
bite,
back
put
up.
it back
Like,
up. I mean, it's all going to be 100% psychological. And quite frankly, if you need that, if that's where we're at, don't go out.
right.
And it's, I mean, because it's not going to help anything. If anything, it's just adding more expenses to places that
The places that are barely
staying afloat.
Right.
Yeah.
Frankly,
like
have
if you
no money to spare on this sort of nonsense.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, how long does it have to stay like that? And is this like the new permanent way? And still, what happens when because inevitably this is what's going to happen. People are going to go out, they're going to eat, they're going to get sick still because, again, there's no air filtration system that's really preventing the spread of this disease. So it's one of those, like, as much as I'm all on board for opening restaurants up, but I think this comes down for where people have to have the responsibilities of, look, if you are one of the people, if you are in the demographic where this can affect, don't go out. Which, I mean, how do you tell that to someone? But at the same time, how do you keep people from, because our trusted government hasn't been on board with getting people their back money and whatnot. So we're getting to a point now where you have our I'm not saying front line if they're hearing that word so much, but service industry workers. You have so many service industry workers that have no income that have to do something in order to just maintain afloat before things end up getting really bad. Then,
yeah, it's a mess. And again, I don't understand. I mean, was that mandated? Was that part of our Ohio government's rules? Like, did you have to do that?
Yes.
Yeah, it's not a suggestion. They specifically said this isn't a suggestion. Like with the masks, it's not a suggestion. It's literally, if you want to be open, this is what you have to do. And also, it didn't even so as far as bars go, those are still closed because even restaurants that have bars are not allowed to utilize the bars because it would be impossible to maintain a 6-foot distance because you'd be, looking at having people, 5 seats at the bar or whatever. So, and also it encourages people to congregate and stand in open spaces and whatever. So they said you should put tables there and then you won't lose the business from the tables.
So do you think, I mean, I guess if you're using shower curtains, which are fairly inexpensive, fairly ineffectual, but fairly inexpensive, right? I mean, I guess your cost versus, having a much lower capacity at your restaurant might work out, but it depends on the reluctance of folks to actually get back out there once things open. And I don't know, but although, like I said before, if my experience going to any stores to buy like whatever I absolutely needed for a project I was working on are any indication, people are just itching to get out there. I mean, I went to Harbor Freight today because I needed some gloves to do some mortaring concrete stuff. They didn't have them, but I did have to wait, at least 30 minutes to get in while I waited for other people to get out. Home Depot,
Harbor Freight
Lowe's,
would be so popular.
Wow, it always is, Jake.
Yeah.
I can't believe you're not in the Harbor Freight cargo cult, but anyway. Yeah. So, and also, folks, while you're listening right now, if you do want to jump in tonight at some point, go ahead and just send one of us a direct message, and we'll send you the link. You can join.
Or I have the feed pulled up on my phone, the live feed. So if somebody comments, then I can click on
because
it.
it's and like I told Sarah last show too, I'm not trying to ignore folks. For some reason, StreamYard it did pull everything over perfectly before, and I could see all the comments. Now I have nothing, so I can't see anything.
If anybody comments, I will bring it up as
Excellent.
well.
Sarah, the producer, will do that. Yep. And
I got it under control.
Got it under control.
And you said you did nothing during the quarantine. You're not a producer of a show.
I haven't been very productive. I've had a lot of little random things that I've been doing, but not anything like useful.
I consider every day that I get up and do anything productive. But, that's where I'm at in life.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're producing more CO2 and bodily waste.
Which is good for the plants. They need that.
It is good for the plants. And is that why we're having this shit weather? Like everybody stopped driving, suddenly it got cold. I doubt that's true.
It does this, Nick, and it will go away. And
we're gonna be fine.
We're gonna be fine. It does this. It happens at
What
least.
If it's cold forever? What if we never have any
What if
crops?
this is an ice age?
Then we wear coats. Yeah. What if everyone was wrong and instead of global warming, it's actually global cooling, and we're facing an ice age?
Well, that
I
could
think
be
that's what actually happened. I believe when there was actually like periods where the Earth warmed, it ended up going to an ice age directly following that. So it's possible, I guess.
Well, that's a bigger problem. We're going to have to build a lot of greenhouses because we won't be able to grow food if it gets cold. But droughts and all that, that's an issue too. Gosh, my daughter and I, we watched a show about water the other day on PBS, and she just kept saying, that's not true. We're not all going to die. But like, that was the gist of the show, because all these aquifers that are used to grow all the crops out west are all being depleted, and more doom and gloom. Anyway, not the show topic tonight. Sarah, what do you have numbers wise? I'm curious about these because I didn't write any down.
So I guess I'll just kind of explain the model that I was looking at, and anybody can go there. It's the Penn Wharton budget model. If anybody wants to look it up, it's through the University of Pennsylvania. It looks at the economic benefits of relaxing stay-at-home orders versus public health costs. And they make the point, they say, even if you only want to look at public health, even if you don't want to even talk about the economics because you don't care, it is important to look at that because it actually gives you like the calculations for public health. So,
well, and not to mention, before you get further, not to mention the fact that those two things are completely integrated. I mean, you can't have economics and public health as they're not two separate things. I mean, public health is directly tied to economics.
I told him, I said I would say if somebody says something. Dirk said that technically we would be on our way into another ice age. So look, I know a thing or two about the Earth's weather patterns.
Dirk, join the show.
So basically they developed this model. If you watch the video, it's like an hour long with PowerPoint presentation where they're explaining it. I actually watched it all.
Me too.
It was very non-biased, just kind of informative, like brass tacks, like just very simple. And they look at GDP, they look at jobs, which is indicated by a change of employment status in the past 7 days. They look at reported cases of COVID and then also deaths from COVID. And they look at that. They actually use county level data to examine that, although it only breaks it out on the state level. So they look at 3 policy variables, which is maintaining restrictions that we have. So everything stays the same. That's the baseline. And then partial reopening and full reopening. And then they look at 2 behavioral variables, which is us continuing to social distance and then reduce distancing. So there's like 5, so there's like these
There are
5,
like six categories essentially.
Yeah, so there's different things, and it actually runs a simulator, and it'll show you the change in the 4 things that I mentioned with jobs and cases and everything. It'll show you the change of all of those things over the course of the next 2 months. Like it ends June 29th or 30th, I think. So it calculates it all out case-wise and everything like that. So basically, I don't know. So I won't even really look at like if we stay the same, because obviously we're not staying, like we're not continuing it to be locked down. So, currently right now, I guess you could say we've got a partial reopening going on. I don't know. Do you want me to talk about nationwide or just Ohio? Because I have both.
I guess we could just talk about Ohio since this is a Ohio-centric show right now.
Yeah. So basically, if we do a partial reopen, but everybody, what did I do? No, maybe I don't have that right. Oh, okay. Yeah. So partial reopen, but we continue to social distance. We're looking at an additional 4,620 deaths. An additional. Or is it cumulative? I think it's additional. Yeah. Oh, you're trying to pull it up. So, and if we look at jobs lost, if we do a partial reopen, which is what we're doing, we're going to gain back 34,607 jobs that people had previously lost.
Right. And folks, this could vary a little bit based off of what I pulled up here, because that's, I think it's updated every day, but yeah, we'll be very close.
So, well, I think you can, is that the simulator? Because it'll like actually like kind of, it shows, it basically has like a bubble that grows over
Yeah, this
the
was the table associated with the simulator. Let me see if I can.
Yeah, there should be
the actual simulator here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty neat
Yeah,
for people who are dorky.
Partial reopen.
That is neat.
Yeah, so
like this kind of thing.
And then you have to select, I think there's a drop down right above. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so we want to look at, let's look at employment. All right, so boy, and I'm in no shape right now to do analysis on this, but go ahead, continue, Sarah.
Okay, so I don't know, did you scroll it down so you can see the numbers?
Yeah, sure. Well, we're like the worst college. I'm like the worst college presenter right now of all time.
Yeah, no, that's a table. Go up. No, you're on a table. It's okay. Actually, you just hover over it. It'll show you. If you
hover over the table.
Over Ohio. Go back.
Okay.
It'll tell you. If you just hover over Ohio. There you go. So that's what I was saying. So that's exactly what I had said. So if we do a partial reopen, then we're looking at gaining back 34,607 of the jobs that we've lost. However, there was already, we're looking at, close to 1 million jobs lost. So that's not really going to get us where we need to be. Now, if you look at a full reopen, you're gonna more than double the number of jobs brought back. However,
and you've got partial distancing, which is what I'm assuming we're going to do.
So eventually, that's where the baseline is what they're encouraging us to do, because technically we're really not supposed to be socializing anymore. Well, for now, still. However, if we go back to a sort of reduced distancing thing, then you will see that we actually end up gaining jobs to the point where we're now at, we're going to be at, well, actually, no. What I was looking at was jobs gained. If we do a full reopen, it'll be 132,000. So I guess the question isn't, and they make the point in their analysis, they said, this isn't about comparing public health. You can't say, oh, worth this much, or which I looked up and I told you that apparently a human life is worth $10 million.
Yes.
Which, I mean, we can't really look at it that way. But at the end, when there was questions for the video, they were talking about, bad economics has a significant impact on health, in terms of quality of life. So economics is tied to health in that sense, because you deal with drug abuse, suicide, domestic violence, all of these things that are health issues. And so believe there is no trade-off between economy and health, then why did you not believe that before this pandemic? And that's the question that he kind of asked at the end, right? Because he said, so if we believe that traffic accidents kill people, why?
So nobody can drive over 10 miles an hour.
Why is the speed limit not 10 miles per hour? If you believe that gun violence kills people, why do people still have guns? If you believe that certain jobs are more dangerous, why are we not giving people hazard pay when they should be getting hazard pay? So I think that was the big takeaway for me when we talk about, we shouldn't even be looking at the economic impact versus lives lost.
And you must, and I think we've established on this show that I think we're all of the opinion that this is a difficult situation, and I'm not making like a judgment call on that. I'm personally not one way or the other, but you can't ignore one and you can't ignore the other. And the interesting thing about the guy, he was actually the president of Wharton who was presenting, and his specialty, I think, was in economics.
And he said risk management. Yeah.
Risk management, exactly. So he's calculating things like what is a life worth all the time. But anyway, here's the grim part, right? So, and I don't know how well you guys can see this, but so baseline. So baseline policy scenario, baseline behavior scenario in Ohio, we're looking at about 2,618 deaths by the end of June. Pretty good. Let's look at we're not going to keep baseline, right? So we're going to do partial reopening. We're actually going to eventually do full. So partial reopening, we're looking at about 4620. Full, which is what we're headed to, we're looking at about 13,674 deaths. They break it down to the number. Obviously, these are models. They're not going to be exact. But, when we bust that out, because we're at least going to do partial, right? So reduce social distancing, which, I see this happening. We're looking at about 9,000 deaths with a partial reopening. And then we're going to full probably by the end of this month. Now, I don't know how this model accounts for that time lapse, but yeah, they're predicting nearly 30,000 deaths in Ohio. And I think it was something way more insane for this, for the whole country.
and you can see, obviously, there's areas where it's going to, the thing is, what you can see on there is you're seeing population density come into play.
Yeah.
That like you're looking at Detroit, you're looking at Chicago, New York, Washington,
the whole
Los
Northeast.
Angeles. And that's a huge factor. That's been one of the arguments as far as how to handle, things with different states, because some states have a much higher population density than others.
And in Northeast Ohio, we have a fairly dense population density, but it's not anything close to some of the other major metro areas. We've got some population density, but we also have a very sprawling suburb here. So but look, okay, this is worst case scenario, and this is cases. So they're saying about 760,000 cases picked up with that sort of what we're heading towards. Now, I'm going to go ahead and close that. But the other thing I've been reading about too is that there are now, something like 10,000 identified mutations of this particular virus. And there are like 6 major ones. And they've been able to break these out into 2. They have an East Asian and a European strain, essentially. And each one of those, that's the clave. And then underneath that, they all have various variations. Anyway, the one that is really taken over right now is the European variant, which is apparently much more virulent than the East Asian. However, because of the mutations and the way that viruses work, which is that they inject some of their RNA or DNA, in this case, I think it's RNA, into a cell, it reproduces. Sometimes it recombines, sometimes it loses stuff, whatever. I also read an article today about how it might be weakening, much like the case of SARS in 2003, just due to that process and due to how easily it spread in people who don't have symptoms. That would make sense, right? People who don't have symptoms, if you're a virus, that would be an evolutionary advantage. You can just spread and spread and spread. The virus's goal is not to hurt anybody or to kill anybody. It's to reproduce, right? So, but in the same token, that would also increase our immunity. So
that's what I was thinking too. Wouldn't our immunity go up because of that?
Yeah, it would. So, it's very interesting. We're still in a very low information situation. Again, these models we just looked at too, they're based off of a lot of interesting data and tons of data too. They even got down to cell phone records for, and nothing specific, but just for locating people, determining their proximity to one another. They put a lot of work into this, and it's developing. I would encourage everybody to check it out if you're interested in that sort of thing.
Yeah, send me a link to that.
Yeah, actually, sir, can you put that in the comments?
Yeah, I can do that.
Excellent.
I would have done show prep had I known.
Sorry, I should have sent it to you. My bad. I was up late drinking, and I was late.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Actually,
Last
no,
night you were rousing
it
for
wasn't.
a fight.
It wasn't last night. No, I sent it to him in like the middle of the afternoon. It wasn't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no.
So you were still rousing for a fight though last night.
I was. I didn't.
You didn't get one?
No.
Or did you?
I didn't get a fight. No.
Yeah. Well,
we could start feeding Nico some whiskey over there. He might want to fight you.
Oh, whiskey and me. You know,
we can bring back some old conversations between the two of you.
It's mainly that. It's mainly that Dickel bourbon. I get that Dickel inside me.
Oh, so good.
And it tickles my anger bone, and I get crazy. I'm not going to get into stories as to what has happened in the past when I've drank that, but
they involve trash dumpsters.
Yeah, that wasn't Dickel, but I digress. Yeah, that was another type of clear liquor. So we went over some of the numbers. We looked at this scientifically, but just speculating, which is really all we can do. I think everybody can just speculate on this. I mean, nobody really knows. We were kind of talking about our situations, just kind of chatting with each other offline or off the air, and also, thinking about how this is actually going to work. So mine's pretty straightforward. So I'll start out, and then I wanted to talk to you, Sarah, about your job. Mm-hmm. So in my job, we are a construction equipment rental house, and we also sell equipment. So, I mean, we've been open this entire time. For the last month or so, we went to sort of a split shift situation where half the staff was working this week, half the staff was working that week. And, that was really tough, especially when you've got trucking and things like that to do. However, starting this week, everybody was back to work, pretty much in the office or in the field, except for me and, one or two other cohorts, because my job is actually to go visit customers. I spend all my time on the road, and that's still, we're not at a point where we're able to do that. So I've still just been using the phone and calling folks. So it kind of, that kind of sucks. I'm really dying to get back out on the road because that's what I really love about my job and my company. But so for me, it's pretty straightforward. It never really shut down. We were considered essential because we work with lots of different industries that are essential. So you got power, healthcare, some parts of construction, pipelines, etc. So pretty straightforward there. But, Sarah, you were in the restaurant industry, and we kind of touched on this already, but have you guys talked about what you're actually going to do to try to transition back to probably not normal? I don't know that we're ever going to be normal again, especially after all of the, financial and economic tumult that's occurred. I mean, it's going to take us a long time to get back to where we were, but what are you going to do to try to get back up and running?
So starting on May 21st, we are going to have, I think May 15th, actually, we're going to have, no, I'm getting my dates wrong. May 11th, there are going to be 6 locations that are opening for carryout. Mine is not one of them. And then obviously with the cold and the ice age, the May 15th, yours is. So the May 15th, the whole like outside dining thing is irrelevant because it's shitty out. There's gonna be a second phase of reopenings, but there's not a concrete date on those. And that's for the location. Well, you've got Gateway, Galleria, which are heavily geared towards sporting events, which are not happening. And then some of the smaller locations, or that just the businesses that are located around them that they rely heavily on for business, are not open right now. So there's not really a value to opening up when you're not getting any customers.
Are you still in Macedonia?
No, I'm at Beechwood. Macedonia. Macedonia is opening.
Okay, I didn't know if you were still there or not. I just knew that the I just figured that one would be tied into the casino and what they were doing, just because, and with the retail shopping.
I mean,
when
they
they
have
let it
the
open back up.
benefit of a large community that's a big suburb. So they have, you know, the a lot of families that live around nearby.
Yeah.
Beechwood is very commercial. There's not really, like, you know, there's a car dealership. There's not really,
Yeah.
you know, there's not really that neighborhood vibe. So
Well,
it's
I
more
heard the
like
malls
the neighborhood ones are going to be opening.
the malls are reopening too.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, Beechwood is a big place for their mall, I believe.
We're a little further away from them.
Okay.
So it's not really a draw. We're right off the highway on
So,
Chagrin Boulevard.
so outside of like, oh, go ahead, Jake. I'm sorry.
No, Nick, you mentioned that the malls were reopening, and they told the guy up at Chapel Hill that everything was about to reopen, and the guy at the piercing pagoda goes, "I didn't even know we were closed."
Well, you know, it was probably hard to tell given the amount of customers.
They're like, "And reopening." And
You should the comment section
why?
on the Akron Beacon Journal article on it was hilarious, and they're like Chapel Hill Mall has been practicing social distancing for quite a while, you know, and without anyone even trying. And then somebody was like, I'm sure all three stores that are going to be reopening are happy to have their guest back, and it was literally singular guest.
Hey, look, they still have they still have like an Asian import store. At least last year when I went,
They have the thing you ride around on, right?
Yeah, and those are cool too.
Yeah, they got that. They got
So
that.
it's a
The last time I was there, the crack security staff came by, and I kid you not, it was two teenagers in T-shirts that said security on them, and I knew they were security because they had like walkie-talkies and stuff, and I'm like, oh.
Well, and it said no. It said no photos and all that.
Yeah, you're not allowed to take pictures of their
I was taking pictures like right in front of the security guard, and nobody gave a shit.
Yeah, what are you gonna do? I could beat both of you up at the same time. What are you gonna do? You know, you're like half my size.
So when I was there, I don't think it was last year. It was actually a year before, and it was already getting bad. So there was Victoria's Secret was still open. Maybe they've closed at this point. And then they did have those ride around things, those really sweet, like whatever they are. And then there was like the Asian import store that you could buy like bonsai trees and samurai swords and shit at, which was pretty sweet. And I was like, man, if I still smoked weed, and by still I mean if I did ever, this would just be a dream come true. I mean, it's just a playground for stone people, essentially.
Well, the last time I was there, which probably would have been about 3 months ago, maybe, and that whole end of the mall where Victoria's Secret, there was nothing down there. It's all just empty.
And that doesn't surprise me. Like I said, like 3 years ago. Yeah.
And if you want to ride around on the little go-kart things you're talking about, there's a little like stand in the front, and they give you the prices, and you have to call a phone number, and then someone will come to you, I guess. I don't know. And then on the opposite end, there was literally 3 stores I think left. Like JCPenney just filed for bankruptcy, so they're out.
Oh, did they close that location?
I said unless they hadn't already closed that location. I thought I heard
I think they already had closed. I think they had already closed that location.
So it's to the point now where it's like, you know, the one what was I think Macy's or something has already been taken over by a storage facility.
Yeah,
that's
Macy's was gone.
USA Storage.
Sears was the only one that was still there, I think.
I mean, based on the way things are going, I just assume we accept the fact that one day that's either going to be an Amazon facility or it's going to be a place where we grow marijuana. One of the two.
They did have a proposal to make it into an old folks home, but as morbid as it is, the demand for that is declining, unfortunately. But yeah, they need to up their game. I think they need to get rid of those little stuffed animal things you can ride around and get some actual like go-karts or dirt bikes.
Oh,
or
Dirk says that they should turn it into a paintball location.
Dirk, why don't you stop commenting and get on the frickin' show? I love having you on here. You're a fun guy, and I haven't seen you in forever. Dirk, get on here. Yeah, beyond that though, outside of the dates, like how are you guys actually planning on doing this?
I think they're still trying to work out the logistics of it. I know we're only bringing back some of the staff. As far as like the bartenders, I mean, they're probably going to have to take tables since there's no bar. That means less servers. You know, we're looking at probably, and here's the thing, and what I was thinking about before is, you know, you can make policy changes, but I feel like the psychological effects of like the media and politicians and everything has already had such a negative impact on people's perception of things that I think that I know you're saying there's a lot of people at Harbor Freight and whatever, but I guess it just kind of depends on the area that you're in.
It depends on what
I
it
think
is.
people are.
Yeah.
I think even if people are allowed to go do it, I feel like they're not going to feel comfortable doing that. And I think that like even I feel like you know, we were worried about, you know, only being able to accommodate like a third or half the number of guests, but I don't even know if it would be to the point where you would need to even worry about that.
Yeah, there's also the side though that I see of people. As soon as you can say you're allowed to go do something, they're gonna want to go do it, and that's just based on what I've seen of people walking around at like, you know, Walmart and Target and just going places and doing the heck. I'll be honest, I went to a store looking to grab a couple things, browse around, see if they got anything else of interest, just because it's like
Nick, go ahead and send him a link. Sorry.
I'm here. And it's something, you know, I mean, I hear it's something to do. And I think there's a lot of people out there that are like that. And you're also going to have some people that just don't believe in any of this for whatever reason. And they just want to get, whether it's their wing fix or whatever, they're just, they just want things to go back to the way they were. I followed a guy on Facebook that was, you know, and, you know, each to their own, went on a road trip down south and was taking pictures at all the bars that he was at that were open. And I'm like, you know what? All right. I mean, me personally, I'm not doing that. But, you know, there is a percentage of people out there that are doing stuff like that, that are going to like really come in and be like, yeah, whatever. You know, I heard another funny thing. It was like, is people not wearing masks? Is that going to be the new judgmental, like the judgmental face that people give going forward?
Could be.
Yeah. You never know.
It could be. And, you know, I kind of want to get into that here shortly because Sarah brought up a word I used last week, which is lumpen proletariat. And okay, it's interesting in this context because there is a lot going on. A lot of people have different opinions. I'd be curious to know, and I don't know if there's been a poll done on this, like, to kind of say like where people actually fall percentage wise on this whole thing, because I recognize it's complex. I don't come down on one side or the other, but I understand both sides. I totally do. I totally get where everybody's coming from. I don't necessarily believe in a lot of the stuff that's been floating around. Well, I guess one of my notes here was, you know, the whole
pandemic.
Pandemic, yeah.
Yeah, what was the doctor's name in there? Something, but some.
I only saw like a couple of minutes.
I didn't look. I'll be honest. I haven't even watched it, but
I didn't watch it at all.
When I saw it pop up on my feed a bunch of times, I was like, "This sounds like nonsense." I'm gonna let somebody else watch it and give me a a good critical critique of it. Because
Nico, when I saw it, my first thought was, is this an Alex Jones piece or a Michael Moore piece? Where are we going with this?
Yeah, one of those two extremes, right?
Yeah.
And I think that
I was like,
from what I read about this this doctor and what like brief clips I've seen, and she really does have like a little bit of that Carol Baskins vibe going on.
Is she an anti-vaxxer? I don't really.
Yeah, well, she claims not to be, but yes, basically she is.
I mean, that's definitely a turn off in terms of someone giving me information. I have no problem with the vaccine.
I think there were claims about, some sort of new retrovirus being a man-made thing, and that's what caused. Because part of her work that was that she had published in the journal Science and was later retracted actually had to do with chronic fatigue syndrome. And she was claiming that it was caused by these pathogens that were actually essentially unintentionally synthesized or whatever. Anyway, it was all retracted, and she really didn't have much credibility. Also reading about her, like just her yacht club lifestyle, like kind of cracked me up. Like she had interviews where she was sitting there in a like a sailor cap and like flip flops, and it just really had a hello crazy cats and kittens sort of vibe to it. And I don't know.
Hey, all you cool cats and kittens.
Yeah.
It just made you think of your beach attire. Got you even more upset that you're not there right now.
No shit. I would.
I've seen your captain's hat you got downstairs.
I don't have a captain's hat, unfortunately.
You're lying. Well, we got to change that. Doesn't Adam
No,
have a captain's
we do need to
hat?
change that.
Let's just go
I mean, if
take
anybody
his.
listening, I have a huge head, so it's got to be a very large size. But if you want to just
a large,
make my
large
day,
hat for a large captain.
It's
Yeah,
not going to fit in the screen. You're going to have to sit further away.
get me a captain's hat.
I spy a Kara back there.
I spy a Kara,
went behind you.
and I spy a Dirk.
There's a
This
Dirk
is amazing.
floating around.
Yeah, so
All right.
let's do this. Let's change the aspect here a little bit so we can see my wife. My wife. Oh, that never gets
Very
old, does it?
nice.
Yeah, that got old like 10 years ago. And then also
Hi,
we'll
Kara.
bring in Dirk. And then I got to step away for just a second because I don't know. It's Friday night and you drink a couple beers and then your bladder wants to explode. But anyway, and Dirk's got one too.
Dirk.
Dirk, how's it going?
Aloha. It's going good.
So Kara's here and she will be joining in my spot for a moment. You guys carry on. Dirk, don't get into anything too interesting when I'm not here. Well, Kara can fill me in. But you were watching the show earlier and you had some comments, and I think that was why I wanted you to get on. Because wait, did you get
What
a
about the
freaking
Ice
hair?
Age?
Wait, hold on. First of all, stop the presses. Did you get a haircut?
That's the Rona haircut. My wife did that.
Yeah, there was another our former president of the club too. He posted a really fresh picture, and I was like, "Where in the hell did you get your haircut?" Oh, my wife did it. I don't know if
I think she did
nothing
actually
against you.
pretty good.
I don't know.
I don't
She
know
did
about
pretty
myself.
good.
She
if
did,
If Nick wakes up bald, I won't blame you, Kara. And by the way, buddy, bald's
Okay.
beautiful. I also got a
That's a
haircut.
tight fade.
Thanks
I'll
for
be right
noticing.
back.
To be fair, I told him if he ever shaves his head bald because he's got beautiful hair, I would put my hair back in dreadlocks.
Oh.
Like when I
I'm okay with that. So
Is that Chip
all right.
did?
what?
No, that's whipped topping. I had to get
Oh, it's
that out because I
whipped
needed to
cream.
get some booze. Yeah,
Nice.
I wanted to get some booze out of the freezer, so that thing was in the way.
Dirk's going crazy on a Friday night. Welcome to the show. Good to have you.
Ah, thanks.
That's
Oh,
what
my
Nick does.
My
Does he have
exciting week.
notes for you?
No, we don't have notes for Dirk. There's no notes needed
No, not for
Dirk.
Dirk. No, you were looking over paperwork. I didn't know if he just like.
Oh,
handed
no.
you
No, this is my exciting week. So
Oh, yeah,
I drew this.
You're scatterbrained Trump.
Yes, basically an electrocuted meat brain. So I redid it tonight.
a little more
Oh, I
Trump-esque. Less hair
Yeah.
though. Less hair.
But I drew it bigger, and then I did this one.
Oh,
Well, okay then.
Yeah, no, that's what my day consisted of. I started getting a little bit more Picasso-esque with the Trumpish thing, but the other one was more Trumpish. I don't know.
You've gone
I
down a
lost
rabbit
friends.
hole now.
I totally did.
But did you though? Did you lose friends?
I lost 3.
You lost 3, but it was like okay, kind of
No.
like
Wait a sec. You
The
lost
one-
3 friends over a caricature?
Yeah, so the one that I posted initially was this one. Ooh, there we go. I redid it tonight just for fun to see if I could make it more Trump-esque, and I think it is. Super
Well,
Trumpy.
I gotta tell you one thing. If you lost 3 friends over a drawing like this, they were not friends.
Well, what's sad is that the one friend I met through Upside of Downs, and her son Dougie was the same age as Ellie, and they both had Down syndrome, and they both had red hair, and we'd
the hell?
wow.
that was out of line.
She has
Um,
feral.
but so-
She has feral children. They don't go to bed at all.
No, they don't. They don't. They're both awake. But
Well, we're in the
no,
poke-apocalypse now. There's no such thing
anyways.
as bedtimes.
but no,
There
like
is.
when Dougie
As
was,
she sips a drink.
they live in California now, but they lived in Medina before, and they used to come over, and Dougie and Ellie were good friends, and we used to be like, oh my god, they can be soulmates. It was just a joke. So like if you have a Down syndrome mom, you have other sex children, then you're like, oh my god, they get married one day. And it was just a joke in our group. Just kind of like pairing them. I don't know. It sounds stupid. I know. But Dougie's gone.
Dougie's not gone. He's still
He's
alive.
not gone. He's not gone. He's just
No. Well, Dougie's gone for Dougie's
dead
gone
to you.
for Ellie.
yeah, that happens. My childhood friends moved away too. It happens sometimes.
So
unfortunately.
Dirk, I've been wondering. You're from Germany, obviously, and you have some
Yep.
sort of insight into, kind of how things are being handled in Germany versus handled here. What are some of the differences that you've noticed in terms of how they're handling the pandemic?
It's interesting. It depends on who you talk to. First off, they are starting to open things back up. Actually, I think statewide, the kids are going back to school, I guess, with face masks. I'm not sure exactly how that works. Their summer school holidays also start later. So
Are they going
start
back
in,
full
like-
time or like part time?
Do they have
I
a
have to
typical
look there. I
school
think
year?
only for a few days a week. I only
Okay.
for a few days a week, not the full
Dirk,
time.
do they have a typical like American school year, or is it different?
They have like an American school year. It's just different in terms of when they start and when they end. Usually depending on which state you live in, the summer school vacation wouldn't start before, I want to say, end of June, usually July, some states. And then you would go back
That's crazy.
in end of August as well.
You can sit over.
So yeah, that's why they still have a little while longer, and they're trying to get them back in. And they already had the grammar school kids, so the ones that do 12th or 13th grade, they've been graduating, and they were allowed back in under special social distancing rules to write their final exams. But yeah, they're just starting to open things up. They actually, they opened up the hairdressers again, so everyone has to wear a mask and stuff like this, and you might have to get, I don't know, your hands disinfected and things like that. So, but
Nick's sad that I let him in. to
Yeah, he
his-
just gave you a snarl when he sat down. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, because I have to use this seat now.
Yeah, he was like, she was like, you can just sit over there.
And he just gave
And
her
I-
a look, and she just like, I'm not moving.
And I'm sorry I had to step out, Dirk. I wanted to I should have made this correction at the top of when you joined. On the last time that Dirk was on, I said something which never basically ever happens. This is probably the first time in my life that was factually incorrect. I said there are no doctors here, and I forgot that yes, you are a doctor, not a doctor of medicine, but you are Dr. Dirk.
no, but I could always pull off the line, please undress, I am a doctor.
Huh.
Do you ever make people call you doctor?
Not really.
Well, I'm not talking about in the bedroom or anything. It's just
Actually, in
No,
the
not-
bedroom, do
not-
you have your wife call you doctor?
well, then I would have to call her doctor too, because she's a doctor as well.
Oh well.
And,
Well,
we're
you could
both,
just-
Doctor.
and on top of that, we're both chemists.
Okay. Okay. Well then. that doesn't-
doctor,
Chemist-
please disrobe. Okay, doctor, I will.
Exactly.
Yeah, I guess
And
that's kind of
whatever we-
redundant at that
and of
point.
course, whatever we engage in, it has to be peer reviewed.
Oh god.
Oh, so you post this
Well,
stuff
this just took
online.
a turn. All right.
You know, there's a lot of people making money off that these days.
Yeah, I see.
Quarantine.
Hey, we have to reinvent ourselves, especially in that crisis. So we have to explore your options of where you can go in the future. You never know.
Chemists gone wild.
Doctor,
Oh, I
doctor,
bet,
doctor.
Don't Google that. I bet there's something out there.
Yeah, don't do it. And he's there.
Peer review.
Nick, while you were gone, we were talking. Well, I asked Dirk about what he knows about what they've been doing in Germany as far as handling things, and he was talking about them starting to send kids back to school with masks and everything. And he took he said that it was a few days. So I don't know if you've seen there's now they're discussing for Ohio go back 2 days a week in the fall, which is all the way in the damn fall, 2 days a week, and then doing the other 3 days remotely. And
that could be an issue, I think.
I think it's a really big issue.
Okay,
That doesn't work.
No, it does not work. And I'm going to step in here just because I sell furniture. So for commercial dealerships and et cetera, for people who are trying to work from home, we are literally trying to align ourselves to equip people with the things they'll need to work from home. I am speaking into the mic.
I can hear.
Oh, okay. I couldn't hear you. Yeah. Go ahead.
He couldn't hear me, apparently. But so we're literally we're putting packages together of things we can send to work from home for all these people. And then it's crazy to me. And I'm putting a whole, I don't want to say how much it is and who it's for, but sneeze guards is basically where I'm at right now. For interior design degree.
Big money in that.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier, Kara, that you're just going gangbusters with the sneeze guards and the psychological protection.
Yes, no, okay. So Herman Miller is the dealership I work for, and they are literally setting us up to be consultants for all of our offices, all of the accounts we have. They can come to us and ask us, how do we do this? And so I've done so many webinars, to try and be a consultant, to be like, how do you go back to the office?
But back to the point too that you made earlier, Kara, about possibly just doing 2 days.
Sorry.
What is that?
I think it's Dirk.
Dirk.
It's his tiny cup.
It's his tiny cup making all kinds of noises. Anyway, back to the point of 2 days on, 3 days off. I mean, already it's a huge issue with, what happens when Kara and I both have to go back to work, or you, Sarah, and the daycares aren't open, and where in the hell am I going to send my kids? If you're doing the school year that way, I mean, that in itself could cause a huge economic impact. I mean, how are you going to do that?
I mean, I have no idea. That's why I'm actually being, trying to be vocal about being opposed to the whole idea, because I don't think it doesn't make sense. And I've even said, maybe it would make more sense for people to be able to decide for themselves, give them the option. Say, you can either send your kids for 5 days a week like normal, or we can put you in this different program where it's going to be 2 days on, 3 remote,
or just remote, or in. I mean, either or, because that would add another layer of complexity if you're allowing people to do both. I'd say you're either out or you're in, and I agree that you could leave that up to people, based on what they can do. So, and I think that's a good idea actually that I haven't thought of. Leave it up to folks if you want to keep your kids out because you have the ability to do that. Maybe you're a stay-at-home father,
or there's some sort of risk in the home that you need to deal with, and by all means. But
I wouldn't, and that's going to lower. But by what percentage, I don't know. But that's going to lower the enrollment in school, and that's going to reduce the risk. But yeah, for everybody, just as that just causes so many other issues. I don't think it's going to ultimately end up being that anyway.
I don't think it is either. I don't think it is either. But if it does, if it goes in something in that general direction, could we see more of a rise in homeschooling? Just because for parents that need something to do for
okay.
almost.
Dig.
No, I meant like after
I'm just
everything.
gonna call you Diggs because that's what it says.
No,
Yeah.
I meant like after all this comes back. I got cut off, so I might have missed part of this. But the only thing I got cut off and everything froze, you were talking.
One
you were talking
second.
about.
Hold that thought for
We
1
might
second.
need to just mute him for now.
Yeah,
Dirk, where is your microphone that you're using right now?
I think it's Dirk. It's Dirk.
That
It
is
was
what
me?
is. Yes, it is.
I'll hold it.
You were moving around.
Hey, here's what we'll do
He was
for
petting
now.
his dog.
Just wave at us when you have something to add,
Okay, so
and I want you to add something.
so Diggs, Jake Jennings. So what is your thought on how people are going to be able to teach their children from home when?
No,
they're
that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is like, if people have to go back to work as everything opens back up, could there be more on the rise if there's schools aren't going to be opening in the fall? If that's what was the idea that was suggested, would people come together and do something like Montessori homeschooling for people who have to go back to work? Is all I'm to lessen the risk and everything else. That was just kind of the suggestion. Where I realize everyone's homeschooling right now. I get that, but that's what I meant. Like at that point in time, if it's going to be like a 2-day a week thing, I would assume consistency is key, and to have a consistent way across the board.
The other thing that was suggested is that the kids are gonna have to wear masks. So
yeah, good luck with that.
So most kids, if they're comfortable enough, might. Ellie would not. She won't wear her glasses.
Yeah.
And Dirk, can you use a different input?
Well, I meant
Sorry.
to have you type that in so we
I didn't
say
see the
that,
type.
but
I'm sorry.
This is what happens when you sit in the captain's chair. You got to be captain.
Well, there's 2 people watching, so
For
Yeah.
now, till you watch it tomorrow.
Actually,
yeah, our audience is going to grow.
Whenever you did, Dirk, it sounds way less noisy now. Are you still there?
I'm using a different headset.
Oh, nice.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Yay!
I have all the technology here.
Yeah, he's a doctor.
Doctor.
I also had to teach online, so
Dr.
that's
Dirk.
why.
I'm prettier to look at than Nick. So
That's true.
if I'm in the captain's chair,
So what are you and your wife going to do if that was the case, Dirk? Like if it was 2 days on, 3 days off, or whatever thing they're,
No freaking idea. I mean,
hell, I think that's everybody. Right?
I mean, in August, our son's supposed to start kindergarten as well. They would
Yep.
be both in the
Ellie's
same
supposed-
school, so I don't know.
We've got three people who have kids starting in kindergarten.
Ellie is a little different than yours starting kindergarten. They basically waived a bunch of her testing, and I had to test. They sent me pages, literally pages of does it always, most likely, this, that, and this, and I had to fill 18 pages out in one, 12 pages out in another, and then I had to do an online thing for another one.
These are developmental profiles she's talking
yes,
about.
for Ellie. Since you guys know her, Ellie. For those that don't, if they're watching, she has Down syndrome and she's awesome. But it's a lot. Usually they'll check all the boxes for me, and then we just do an evaluation together and do a parental review assessment, and then she moves to the next grade. So they waived all that. So yeah, she's going to kindergarten one way or another if they open. So sorry.
Yeah, but we're basically with kids all kind of screwed if that were to happen, and which is why I think ultimately there'll be a lot of feedback, and
It
hopefully
seems unrealistic.
Yeah, it really does, and I'm hoping the state follows what they've been doing thus far and being fairly reasonable about things and fairly prudent, and they'll take that that feedback into advisement, and that won't happen.
Because
It
I
also
don't see
seems
what the
like
benefit.
governor just pitched that idea right now, so it's definitely not thought through yet.
I think it was just an idea of we may not be over this, and just saying prepare yourselves kind of idea. And that's what I'm grateful that they're at least giving us the it might not be over.
Exactly. So to kind of shift gears into another subject I said we would get in tonight, based on Sarah's suggestion earlier about what was that German word I used last week or whatever it was.
Lumpenproletariat.
Yes, that is the one. And
I actually had to look it up because I was confused for a while.
I did.
so I was
too.
going to ask you, Dirk, how familiar are you with the teachings of Engels and Marx? So you had to look that up. So not that familiar.
Funny enough. So when I was trying to look that up in German articles or anything, and it took me a while to find something, and I found an article from a renowned German magazine or newspaper, and it was about, I think, the 150th birthday of Karl Marx or something like this, where they were trying to shine some light on him, and that because there's still people celebrating that person in Germany because he was German.
Oh, he was from there.
And the basically the consensus was because I didn't associate the word proletariat with anything that would have had a negative taste in communism or socialism, because that was just for me what the working class is. But apparently he did distinguish between this, let's say, somewhat educated working class and the people that only had to offer their physical labor. And he called them like the lowest working class, the Lumpenproletariat. I did not know that, actually. So you actually, with that, you taught me something. I looked something up. That was interesting.
Good. Maybe you can start calling me doctor.
Pimps and hoes.
But at any rate, so, and more specifically, what he said was that the lumpen proletariat were those that the proletariat that lacked class consciousness, and and there were various different opinions throughout Marxist history, and this is getting really dry, isn't it? But basically what they said, the different opinions were that they were basically worthless to the revolution, or that maybe that was sort of the consensus opinion. And then there was a minority opinion that, no, they just need to be taught and they need to learn. And then maybe, they can come around to being like straight up proletariat or whatever. So my question and my challenge the other day that I posted was that I'd like to talk to a sort of a hardcore Marxist communist about the lumpen proletariat and understand how they would deal with the issue of these folks if their glorious revolution ever occurred. And the reason why that's not just a challenge that I posted in a video the other day, but why it's relevant now is because I suppose we have, a very large, we have a substantial lumpen proletariat, if you want to call it that now, that is sort of a counter-revolutionary or even a contrarian sect of our public as it stands, which has really presented itself ever since this COVID-19 and the pandemic has occurred.
Where do we find one of them?
I'm not going to name names. What?
I don't know. I don't know if you can liken the term lumpenproletariat to what I think the crowd of people that you're thinking about.
You're screaming.
Sorry, I'm screaming?
Oh. No, she wasn't screaming.
Thanks for coming. Bye-bye.
Okay. So for me, the taste, what I read into the term lumpenproletariat is more like the really uneducated people that so to say, they don't really know any professions. They didn't have even an apprenticeship or something like that. But to me, that doesn't necessarily lead to. But yeah, I guess the problem is that when you are in this position, you can be easily influenced by, I guess, the wrong people with the wrong opinion.
Well, and I know you can read the source material in its original language, Dirk. So I'm not going to disagree with you strongly, but I think
I only read that one article. I never, by the way, yes, I was born in East Germany, but I never.
Yes, you were born under that particular regime, yes, so you do have some insight.
If that wouldn't have crumbled, I would not be here. My kids wouldn't exist, and yeah.
So I'm glad it did, because I'm glad to know you, Dirk. But what I'm saying is that lack of class consciousness, that's sort of and again, look, guys, I'm not coming at this as a Marxist. I'm just playing devil's advocate here. I am definitely probably the opposite of a Marxist or somewhere in between. But anyway, I digress. That is a sort of a insult hurled by some of the, the further left folks at people who say, let me give you a particular instance of what I see as an embodiment of that term. Well, why do you're poor. You're a poor white person. Why do you keep voting against your interests? And I think that's sort of what was meant, by that term. And I think that.
But see, I didn't really gather that those were even the people that were voting, because when I was reading about it, it was talking about how, they weren't even interested in being a part of the political process. They kind of exist outside of that.
I would update that, because at this point, when that was written, we didn't have the media saturation that we have now, and belonging to a team per se wasn't as important to folks who just didn't care. Right. But now everybody's online. Everybody sees everybody's opinion. You want to belong to a team. At least that's what it seems like to me. So
I'm not very good at that game.
Yeah, me neither.
I think that there is a sizable chunk of the population that doesn't vote and doesn't give a shit about any of this that's going on. And they might repost something about, stay safe, stay home, but they're going to Walmart, doing their thing. They're not seeing a disconnect between their behaviors and the views that they're espousing, and it's not really relevant to them. And they're hanging out with friends and they're doing whatever they're doing. And it's not because they're like actually trying to be militant or trying to, use their liberties. It's because they literally don't understand what's going on and they don't care.
Yeah, so there's a lot of that too, and maybe. But
that's always existed, though.
It has, and maybe we're using. Maybe we're using antiquated. Maybe we're using antiquated terms here, and maybe the terminology doesn't really matter. But now I'm losing my.
I'm so glad that you used it because it taught me something.
Yeah.
Good, but what it made me.
It was fun reading about it. I read about the Black Panthers party, and it was.
But where I think it's relevant right now is that it was a pejorative term. It still is, I guess, to people who still use it, which is obviously very few people. But it was a pejorative term for folks, and I think that's still happening because, look, what we were talking about earlier, like the pandemic vignette that we've seen passed around online, and folks who have all kinds of crazy conspiracy theories about the virus. Some folks say it's no worse than the flu, et cetera, et cetera. Look, I'm not shitting on you guys. Even you hardcore Trump supporter, MAGA folks, I'm not shitting on you. I mean, I understand where that came from. And I think people being condescending rather than trying to understand where folks are coming from is a big part of the problem. Not to mention, there's a lot of folks that want things to open up right now that aren't even part of that crowd. They're just really economically fucked by this whole thing. And I get where they're coming from. And I think we need to do a lot less scolding of each other And I think we need to do a lot more trying to understand each other. And ultimately, maybe it's because I'm one of those crazy libertarians, I think folks are going to have different opinions. I think at the end of the day, the market is money, and even human capital is going to bear out, what was the right decision. And we're going to have to live with it because that's how human nature is. But I don't think we gain anything from like talking down to folks.
I agree.
No,
I
that's
just think a
totally
lot of it
true.
comes back to people being scared. And people are scared and they think anything that's different from what they take faith in what they believe in, and they believe so hardly in that anything that disagrees with that is they just don't want to hear it, and they just get kind of caught up in they know what they know, and that's just kind of my thoughts on it. Sorry, Dirk, didn't mean to jump ahead of you.
Oh, well, go ahead, Dirk. I'm sorry.
No, I just feel like one of the things that I think I'm starting to see more and more when I'm just browsing on Facebook like each day just to see what's out there, and I have definitely Facebook friends from a different spectrum. Not that I really interact with all of them. You know how it is. You might have a lot of Facebook friends that you just see a post here once in a while. But I'm a little afraid what I already see is that in light of the upcoming election, that there might be already some controlled misinformation out there. And you really have to watch out specifically with all that is going on right now is that what is put out there and who did put it out there. I mean... I'm becoming more and more suspicious of a lot of posts that I read right now, and it just seems like a lot of people, maybe with different interests, are just trying to pour oil into the fire, to deepen the divide, where people should be trying to work together right now. I mean, that's all a shitty situation. Either way you take it, you just like you said, you couldn't have just let it go as a politician. You couldn't have just ignored it. But what you do is, as you said, is based on very limited data, and they keep learning more and more things, and then other people see it in a way as, all of those scientists are wrong. It's like, no, they're not. They just didn't know enough to make a definite, I don't want to say definite decision, but definite analysis of the situation. And I mean, at the end, all that, what the lockdown did was to give them a little bit more time to find out more information. But now we're really at a point where, people are starting to be impatient for good reasons. I mean, I'm in a relatively fortunate situation here because I could teach remotely and I'm still getting paid. But I definitely understand that some people are like, I need to get out. I need to make a living. And that all needs to take it into consideration. But there's definitely, with all of these conspiracy theories, with all of these really just absolutistic way of thinking about the situation, the black and white, it's really doing no good because it's all kinds of shades of gray right now.
Absolutely. And what I was going to say to that end is that, I'm sure you're right. There probably is some, malicious influence coming in. There are things that are, just meant to sow discord and whatnot. But it's so easy to do that because in times of turmoil, look, the last really tough time we had in the United States was in 2008 when we had an economic downturn. The last huge crisis before that was 9/11. And these are all things that, they were complex and there were many different causes and there was a deep history and there like it's hard to understand. There are still people trying to figure out all of these events and figure out exactly why they happen. Great Depression, for instance, or whatever, world wars. There are so many different things that go into them. And isn't it much easier? And wouldn't, people
it was Hoover.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So don't people want to believe, though, that it is some conspiracy, because that's human nature. That's why we think our dreams mean something. We try to build order out of chaos.
If DeWine just came out and he said, or whoever came out and said, listen, we had limited information. We had these models that we were working off of. The models turned out to not be as accurate as we thought they were going to be. And moving forward, this is what we're going to do. And just why can't they just say, sorry, side of caution, and now we're going to do things differently moving forward, and just apologize.
That might work with the four of us here. But do you think, as a political calculation, because they are politicians, that would work generally? And maybe you're right.
Are we talking about Ohio here, or are we talking about the country?
Well, let's talk about Ohio, since she brought
Ohio
up
was at the forefront.
Because you're two different persons. Sorry, there's two different personalities at play there. If you're talking about Ohio, DeWine actually has, because of how he's handled this, has had a very high approval rating from people, the highest I've ever seen him have. I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And the thing with that, though, there is also the other side of this. And my background working in MMA, I'm fortunate enough to have met a lot of people. So my Facebook feed and other feeds, I have like a very diverse, and I can tell you right now of 5 MMA gyms I know of. One of them's hit national headlines. Stipe Miocic trains out a strong style fight team, and the UFC wants to strip him of his heavyweight championship because they want to have their fight, and Stipe is saying, "Hey, I'm sorry, I'm busy being a first responder and a paramedic." And per our governor,
what a cool dude, by the way,
yeah. But per our governor, I can't go to the gym because our gyms aren't open. But they don't see that out there; they just see their money. I bring that up because back to the like his gym, Strong Style, they're one of 5. Griffin Roll's another one. Victory just Rick Blackwell just had a post online that they have to shut down because they don't have the finances to keep the gym going. But I know of at least 5 that have GoFundMe pages that have gone up, and fortunately, a lot of the members have retained their memberships and are helping out. People are donating these things, but it's Annabelle's, it's these mom and pop places that are the ones that need to open up, or else they're fucked. So a lot of them are our friends. So it's like this really, really terrible catch-22. It's like,
well, and in that situation, it's easier, like, is what I'm saying. It's easier to believe that there's some sort of grand conspiracy, like Bill Gates is trying to kill off half the population of the earth, or whatever the fuck people believe these days. And maybe they're right. I don't know. I'm agnostic too, so who knows?
I just hope it's the reptilians.
Yeah, maybe the reptilians.
So happy.
But
so in that sense, wouldn't it just be better, if it's belief conspiracies, or have somebody say, "Hey, we overshot. We missed the mark. We did too much." Like, I mean, at least that contains that resentment and anger for the people that are protesting.
I hope so.
But here's the thing, though: we don't have enough data yet because we haven't opened everything back up. We're not going to know until we open this up and see what happens. Because all of a sudden, shit hits the fan. Then everyone who was going, "Oh yeah, we did. What the hell did you do?" Is going to be like, "Oh shit." But I also think that maybe this is the libertarian in me, that businesses will figure out a way and take the natural course to make things work for the way they need it to work to comply with code.
You don't want to
depending on what that is. Yeah, you don't want to kill your customers.
No,
I mean, unless you're a heroin dealer, which is the weirdest business ever.
Which actually, they also don't want to kill their customers.
They don't.
True.
I think it's coming from their suppliers or whatever. That's another discussion. But
that's a whole other ball of wax.
Yeah.
And not even what I want to get into.
Sidebar.
But
Nope.
yeah, so again, like you said, and like everybody I think agrees, we all understand the frustration. To your point, Sarah, about people just coming out and saying, "Look, we fucked up," essentially, mea culpa. We were wrong. I think that's would be awesome. I would respond very well to it. I think most rational people would respond very well to it. How would that play out generally? I don't know. And maybe I'm making negative assumptions about, sort of misanthropic assumptions, which I've been known to do. But with that said, like, if you do that, DeWine, look, I know you're listening right now. You should take Sarah's advice, because you've already forged a new path by being sort of a prudent leader who listened to experts, even though they could be wrong, at great political risk. Maybe you should be the first guy to say, if the data proves it out, saying, you know what, maybe we fucked up. Maybe we overreacted. But like you said, Jay, I mean, we don't even know yet. I mean, it would be the wrong.
That's the thing. Everyone's reacting.
If that time comes,
we don't. It's all speculation at this point, and I don't know. There's a part of me that's going to go. There's a part of me. I'm with you, Nick. I see both sides on this. There's a part of me that's like, okay, and everything was overhyped, and there's a part of me that's like, it's underhyped, and we won't know until. And it's Trevor Noah did a really interesting interview with I think it was the Prime Minister of Norway. No, Sweden. I'm sorry, Sweden. And he was
because they had a different approach.
Yeah, just look that up and watch it. It's a very interesting way of how they handle, but it could never work here just based on how Sweden is set up.
Sweden has a different culture.
Yeah,
just like Germany has a different culture. There is no country on earth that has a culture like the United States.
No,
I mean, we
are
much we are unique.
Mark,
for better or for worse.
Mark Pfeiffer.
Yeah.
He says he's been a trendsetter so far. Keep it rolling, DeWine.
Yeah.
But he also said haha, so I don't know if that's really what he meant.
I want to weigh in on that Sweden thing.
Yes,
I just saw a little ad about that in a German science show, and they interviewed not the prime minister, but I think it was like what would be the basically the equivalent to Dr. Fauci here.
That's who it was. That's who it was. I stand corrected, Dirk.
Yeah.
That's who I saw.
So their health minister or whatever.
Yeah.
It was something with T. But anyway, he said that I guess in Sweden there is a better relationship between the people and their government, and so the government basically strongly suggested measures of social distancing and reduced mobility, and a lot of people did, which that's questionable if that would work in Germany or here in the US. But the vote is also still out because if you compare Sweden, which has I think a population density close to a country like Norway, if you compare Sweden to Norway, and Norway did enforce a lockdown, you can actually see results that Sweden is hit much harder. But then the Swedes also put out the argument that it's mainly in nursing homes. So
and they have larger nursing homes. I heard that.
And I mean, at the end, the problem is right now that we're just not at a point where we can give definite answers. Maybe next year around that time.
It's going to be a
post-mortem. That's the problem right now.
Back. Mm-hmm.
And everyone wants to have answers, and that's I think that's the way why these conspiracy theories work so well, is that it's kind of
they have the answers.
Yeah, they have the answers. They know how to do it. Just have a little shot of Clorox. It's going to do you well.
Inject some bleach into your veins. You're good.
It's honestly,
I think he was talking. I did watch that conference.
I have to say just one thing. Since again, I follow the German news, I follow the local news and US news, that this made it into the German news. This suggestion, it's not
like the statement, the whole statement.
I don't think
what was the reaction to
as
that?
an actual suggestion. He was just not. I think in this moment he was just not clearly thinking about what he was saying. I don't think he meant it as an.
He was just kind of like throwing around an idea about treatment.
which for someone who's not educated in that in medicine, okay, you can throw out an idea like this, but when you speak to so many people and you're the leader of a superpower, you would probably have to. This is one of the cases where you have to watch your language, because it will affect people that listen.
Right,
to
you shouldn't be spitballing press conference.
Yeah,
Yes,
and Dirk,
exactly,
I mean, and
exactly.
it was very uncharacteristic because he is very good at watching his language. So this was very surprising to me, because directly before he made that comment, they were talking about the different types of things that kill it, and the last thing that talked about, which had like a, like the 1 minute response time or whatever, was just pure ethanol, which sure.
I put out a little challenge on Facebook, actually, right after I read that that news ad. I was like, all right, here's my thinking about it. Yeah, alcohol clearly kills, and hand sanitizer kills most of the virus. So we also know that the virus will affect our lung cells and grow in our lungs. So why don't you just huff hand sanitizer? That should help, shouldn't it? And then I basically challenged everyone to find out exactly why that is a bad idea. I made it clear that it is a bad idea. And I challenged everyone to find out why exactly is this a bad idea. And that's the problem that should have come after a statement like this is, all right, obviously ingesting bleach like this is not a good idea. And that's why this is a bad idea. I actually don't think that he actually suggested to people, hey, maybe we just inject bleach. The problem is, if you just blurt something like this out, there might be, let's say, and I don't want to use the word, but I will, less educated people. And I don't want to mean that in any degrading way, but that might interpret something into that, and then that's that. That's why you have to watch your language in a position like that.
And Dr.
It comes with the job. It's a basic fucking job requirement.
And Dr. Dirk, thus is the problem that we right now have to sit here and have this conversation about the president of the United States, a leader of a superpower. And it's just like, that is, and a lot of things that are said, I'm not going on things that are said about, but things that he says, I'm like, what if Obama said that?
Oh, dude, come on.
It's one of those
tan suit, Jake.
Wait a minute.
Suit.
Like,
tan suit. That's all I have to say.
Yeah. It's just one of those that I'm like, I look at it and I'm just kind of like, it's worse, more cheesy. It's actually cheesier now than pro wrestling, which I can't even watch because it's just bad improv. I can just watch that like on people trying to be comedians online or something. Like
or on this show.
Yeah. So, but it just, I don't know. I look at it, I'm just kind of like,
yeah. Well, it is what it is. Look, that's what we have at the moment, whether you like it or not.
But I mean, I'm just like the rest of the world's perspective looking at that.
Yeah, well, it's kind of embarrassing, but it is what it is.
Yeah. And it's just like, okay, and how does it make us look on an international, like, out of all of the people who live in that country who could possibly be interviewed for this position that will be selected by everyone in here, we've chosen this guy.
It's sad when North Korea is laughing at you, but whatever, it's.
I didn't mean to bring us down, but
what a downer, dude.
Hey, did we manage to put the toothpaste back in the tube? Oh, I didn't mean to do that.
No, we put it on the floor. We stepped
the
on
toothpaste back in the tube. Dirk, that was the
recognized. That is the internationally recognized gesture for that.
Putting toothpaste back in a tube. Yes.
So maybe that was the sort of the tagline for this show, is putting the toothpaste back in the tube. Now, Dr. Dirk, as a chemist, is there a way, chemically perhaps, to get that toothpaste back in the tube? You're going to have to think about this. You're going to have to work on it. You're going to have to, I'm sure you have a big chalkboard somewhere in the house where you write out, formulas and shit. So,
or it's like Goodwill Hunting.
Well, you need, how about a syringe? You can use a syringe.
No,
or,
that's no. That's
No.
one
not
of
gonna
these.
work.
Well,
The gauge would have to be
probably.
That's what Bill Gates
Hard.
wants you to think. You can put that toothpaste back in the tube with a syringe, but I'm
by
not
the way,
getting a
wait,
vaccine.
Wait, hang on.
Say about Bill Gates what you want, but he installed a ton of toilets in Africa. That's what I heard.
He couldn't even keep viruses out of Windows.
What
Give
is
me
the
a
Bill
break.
Gates conspiracy? What is Bill Gates doing to everybody?
He's trying to
And
get
how's that connected to 5G?
This is all
Gates is
QAnon shit I don't even want to talk about, honestly.
He's what now? What's he trying to do, Sarah?
He has a vaccine that he wants to sell to everyone and give to everybody because he released the virus that he already had the vaccine to. I don't know. It's crazy.
So he can be rich?
So yeah, what's he get
Richard.
out of this? He was already so rich that he gave his money away.
I
to, like,
imagine
help
that
the earth.
probably whatever
What the heck was
vaccine
he
he
doing?
implants in us is going to have a microchip.
That's the conspiracy. Right?
Look,
Oh,
I mean,
George says that is the conspiracy. Is there's a microchip in the vaccine that he wants to give you.
That's what it is. That's how they're going to microchip
Can I steer the
us.
discussion
Okay.
into a
Go
more
for
serious
it.
direction?
Yes.
No.
No. Yes.
Because we
Shame
were
on
talking.
you.
Because we were talking about how it would work if the kids go back to school in fall. Has any of you looked up these social distancing hats that Chinese students have had
look
to
it up
make
right
for
now.
themselves to
hold on.
keep
Let's get this.
distant from their fellow students? I thought that was like, is that serious? I bet it is, but I'm like, maybe that would be something that we can do.
Hats.
Social distancing hats?
Yeah, Google social
China.
distancing hats China.
Oh, I got
or
it.
Chinese
I got it.
students.
I got it. Let's see here. Hold up. Let's get this full screen if possible. Let's see. Can I open this image in new tab? Yes, I can. So here is. Oh, come on. Let's zoom in. Sorry, folks. This is a very interesting show right now.
Wait, hang on. I'm not even there. What am I missing?
Yeah,
I mean,
nothing.
Sonia's-
I'm trying to.
Sonia's the only one even watching.
Sonia, you are a saint.
No, she's the only one. So it's just
You know,
me and her.
People start watch. People. A lot of folks don't watch it live, which is
Yeah,
is
it's
cool.
weird.
Why would you watch this after the fact?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I have
yeah, that's
be like,
a
oh
good
yeah, I saw
question.
that. I saw that.
Yeah, I can't get a good
Well, hi,
resolution
everybody.
Booze.
photo of this stupid thing. But
I wonder.
The king cake.
dump cake.
Gurktaler
Okay.
Alpenkräuter.
I'm drinking a king cake beer. It's a king cake.
Wait, what is
IPA.
that?
Okay, are these pool noodles?
Fanoodles?
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
it looks like it. Doesn't it?
What's
Yeah,
happening?
like-
What did I miss? Where do we
These-
get the fanoodles at?
If you look up,
Apparently,
oh, here, I'll share this.
apparently
Okay,
they
it's
made
big
it
enough.
themselves, so that was like a crafts project for the little students.
Oh
it
yeah,
can
I
be pool
can't.
noodles, actually.
I was trying.
Yeah,
I was
see-
trying to make it. Oh, there you go. You
These
got it.
kids have
Fanoodles
Like-
on their head.
like really half-ass predator headdresses on.
Some
I don't know.
PVC, some
Shit, in
PVC
America,
piping.
kids be getting stabbed at those things.
Oh man.
The one
no,
though
look
is
at-
just like some floppy like construction
is-
paper. That
Is this
doesn't
kid
seem
up here?
helpful.
Like this kid up here? Does he have like it going like one of those fake the fake arrows you used to be able to get when you were a kid that like looked like he got shot through the neck with an arrow? Is that
sure
what that
does.
is?
That's what,
Yeah,
that's
sure
what I
does.
thought was just PVC piping, but you could be right.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like,
Oh help!
Ah.
And this guy
Oh,
has
yeah.
like a Russian fuzzy hat on,
Oh my god.
Nike.
well, hang on.
kid's
So
up.
as someone who went to Catholic school, you know, you can teach the whole story of Jesus. So they had to carry the cross with that, walking around, have a 6 feet thing with you.
Well, problem solved for Catholic school.
You know,
I
that
don't know,
you
guys.
give to people. It's like, that's a. I don't know if that'll work. Those end up as weapons by kindergartners or a lot of children poking their eyes out because I mean that's just.
I
what kids
love
do.
your tiny cup.
Are you
Are you
drinking?
drinking
Oh, your shots. Wait, what were you drinking again, Dirk? I missed that when you put that
So
up.
first off, I'm
That's
drinking
awesome.
out of a little sand.
Little Kringle.
Yeah, he looks like Santa Claus, but it might actually be Karl Marx. Oh, and by the way, the university that I got my degree from, now it's just the University of Leipzig, but it used to be Karl Marx University.
Nice.
Just FYI. I was drinking.
Your doctorate is invalid.
An Austrian. Hey, that's the exact university when it was still called Karl Marx University, where the German Chancellor Angela Merkel got her PhD from.
She's
FYI.
Angela Merkel is fake news, so she doesn't even.
What is that?
Gurktaler.
Oh, it's a
Vermild. Alpenkraut.
Gurktaler Alpenkräuter. It's an Austrian booze. See?
What's an Alpenkräuter?
What is that?
Alpine herbs.
Oh, okay, just like
Is it like it's like Saint
all the other
Germain?
stuff.
I think Saint Germain is
My
a
mom.
herbal
It's
based
like a-
thing.
Actually, my wife brought that from Germany in her suitcase last time we were in Germany. It was like a buddy of mine. It's better than Jägermeister, let's say it like this. It has kind of
So
a
it's like an
flavor-ish.
anise, that licorice. Ugh.
No, not licorice. Not licorice.
Because there's Jaeger,
it
and
has
what was that
herbs
company? What was that
Uzo?
company we had at the Oktoberfest last year with Jaeger? That was older. Who was that? Because there's Jaeger, obviously, is the most popular. Then there was, oh shoot, was it?
Kümmerling?
No,
That's a German one.
they had a whole
I'm not
booth.
sure.
Goldschlager.
No. Anyway, we're digressing to the point of just complete irrelevance here. Look,
I don't know,
folks.
I think it's a pretty good chat.
Hey, it is not irrelevant. It's alcohol.
Yeah.
This is
Alcohol.
true.
Hey,
I mean, I think
Hey,
Which kills
who's-
germs.
we've
is
informed people,
producing-
we've entertained
Yeah.
people.
Who's
Yeah.
producing all the sanitizer right now? The distilleries.
Tito's.
Yeah. Distilleries
Gojo.
are like, we got this.
There was I saw a little. I'm not sure if you would want to call it a funny ad, but in Germany there was also one small gin distillery that apparently came up with a little call for leftover alcohol, so people could just come by and dump their booze into a
Who has leftover
barrel.
alcohol?
Yeah, that's pretty fucked up. That's
good
called
question.
alcohol abuse.
Yeah, no, we don't have that.
But they interviewed some people there, and
I'm
one
confused
woman
by
was
the
like,
question.
"Yeah, I just had this one bottle of, I don't know, Obstler or whatnot. So I went to the supermarket and bought like 2 bottles of vodka, and they just dumped that all in there, and then the guy distilled out the alcohol and then provided sanitizer to like a local, I want to say,
You have a bottle of Southern.
uh,
I would happily contribute to that because it tastes like shit.
Yeah.
see,
Maybe they could do a trade in for some Obstler, you know, but or some Ausbach. At any rate, folks, we're going to continue talking, I think, but we're not going to let you guys be privy to it because we've tortured you for 1 hour and 42 minutes, going on 43 minutes.
Yeah, it was a
already.
long one.
And
It
if
was a
you've
long
gotten
one.
this far, go outside. Go.
Yeah, go outside.
Like, go for
Uh,
a walk. Go.
you know,
and
catch us-
Yeah.
Catch a snowflake on your tongue.
Catch a
if
snowflake
you
on
were
your
a kid.
tongue.
Ohio
I don't know,
weather.
in
is
in
fucked
2
up, let me
days when this
tell you
uploads,
that.
they watch this. That might mean something totally different. I don't know.
And I don't want to know what that means. But at any rate, folks, thank you for joining us. You know, if you want to join that fans only thing, though, you can get privy to this after discussion if you pay the money, because that's when it gets really.
Oh,
Crazy.
I'm starting to charge people to their family tree.
Oh yeah,
So
let's
while we're
plug that.
promoting, well, yeah, hey, if anybody wants me to work on their family tree, I don't really have set rates because I don't really know what I'm worth yet. But so far, I've been working on my boss's family tree, and I have about 300 people in it, I think. I've only been working on it maybe 10 hours. And yeah, there's like 300 people. And I'm just looking at direct lineage, so not like brothers and sisters. I'm saying like just straight back. So anyway.
And Sarah is not lying. She really does that. I am lying about the fans only or only fans or whatever the fuck it's called.
I'm actually really good at it.
And I assume she really is.
Mhm.
So with that, folks, cheers. Good night. Auf Wiedersehen. Adieu.
To you and you and you and you. That was sorry.